שחזרתם אלינו, אנחנו ממשיכים בריאיון עם שגריר ארצות הברית שפירו. We're going to pick up from where we broke off. You made a point of saying that the administrations are working together and very good relationship, but it's quite apparent that there are a lot of issues where Israel and the U.S. don't see things eye to eye. You can talk about the settlements and you can talk about stopping the funds to the Palestinian Authority. I think the major issue is Iran. As it looks like these days, it seems like Israel is warming up planes and the Americans are sweating to hold them back.
I think, first of all, it's not unusual for friends to have some disagreements. And so while we have many, many common interests, we don't agree on everything, and that's natural. On Iran, however, I'd say our effort has been extremely well coordinated and extremely focused on the same goal, which is to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. And also on the same methods. We have worked together with Israel and with many other countries in the international community to build the strongest possible and strongest ever sanctions regime against Iran. It's had real bite. It's involved UN Security Council resolutions. It's involved other sanctions by the United States and other countries, and it's affected Iran's economy, its energy sector, its transportation industry, its banking industry. And
but
now,
actually, we were sitting here a day after the IAEA is not gone all the way. I mean,
well, the
report is that they're expressing concern, but there are no sanctions.
The report is very strong and demonstrates that Iran has clearly failed to live up to its international obligations, and there are serious concerns about its nuclear program and its possible military applications. And the response has been a unified, strong statement by the international community that Iran must live up to those obligations, which lays the foundation for yet additional sanctions, yet additional pressures that we'll be working with other partners, Israel and others, to bring to bear.
In Hebrew we call it parve. It's a parve resolution.
I think the resolution, the exact words of the resolution are less important than the unity that it represents, including Russia and China, which lays the groundwork for a very strong international response. What Iran now can see is that the entire world rejects the path it is on of pursuing a nuclear program outside of international safeguards and is going to ratchet up pressure, which has already imposed serious costs on the Iranian economy.
So you believe these actions can actually hold back a military operation led by Israel?
Well, look, no option is taken off the table. Our focus right now and our focus with the government of Israel and with our other partners is to use the sanctions and the economic pressures that we have already put in place and additional ones that I think will be forthcoming in the days ahead to show Iran that the costs of pursuing this program are too high and to get them ultimately to stop.
Is there any base to the reports of the U.S. warning Tehran that if you don't stop your nuclear pursuit, then the states will stop holding Israel back, and that the deadline is spring 2012?
What we're focused on now is the sanctions option. As I said, no options off the table, but we think that the best approach is the one that keeps the entire international community united in building more and more pressure against Iran, and it's working to make a real difference in their economy.
And while you're talking about, pushing for sanctions, let me show you what Defense Minister Barak said this week on national television in the States.
And wouldn't you want a nuclear weapon?
Probably. I know it's not. I don't delude myself that they are doing it just because of Israel.
That doesn't help, does it?
The defense minister, I think, is aware, as we are aware, that the possibility of Iran pursuing nuclear weapons represents a significant threat to Israel. Of course, Israel rightly sees it as an existential threat. It's a significant threat to our interests, to our allies, to many other countries in this region. And for that reason, we're all on the same page, that has to be prevented from happening, and we're all using the same techniques to do so.
So how come it became such a political issue in the States? I've been following the debates, the Republican candidate debates, and I found it amazing that it was the number one question in the last debate. I just, picked a few.
It seems that the table is being set for a worldwide nuclear war against Israel.
The United States of America is willing, in the final analysis, if necessary, to take military action to keep Iran from having a nuclear weapon.
Is it worth going to war to prevent a nuclear weapon in Iran?
No, it isn't worthwhile.
We need to put economic pressure on Iran. We have the biggest fleet of those warships in the world, and we could use them strategically in the event that they were able to fire a ballistic missile.
There are a number of ways to be smart about Iran and relatively few ways to be dumb, and the administration skipped all the ways to be smart.
Isn't it going to be hijacked by the campaign? I mean, isn't there going to be pressure to do this or that?
I think actually in the United States there's a bipartisan consensus. The administration has worked very closely with the Congress.
But Israel has become it used to be a bipartisan issue, and now it's not. It's part of a political campaign, presidential campaign.
Well, as I was saying, I think there's a bipartisan consensus on this issue. The administration worked very closely with Congress to pass the Comprehensive Iran Sanctions and Divestment Act last year that imposed additional unilateral American sanctions on top of the ones imposed by the UN Security Council. I think there's a possibility that we'll work together with Congress in the days ahead on the additional steps we need to take. And so I think what I hear is actually a lot of commonality about the priority this issue deserves as an American policy matter.
And are you sure that the phone will ring before, if and Israel decides to attack? Is there an understanding that Israel will inform the White House?
We are very closely coordinated with Israel on this strategy. We're very closely coordinated because we have a common understanding of the threat that's posed. I have every reason to believe we're going to remain closely coordinated as this moves forward.
Let's talk about Syria. I mean, you have a lot of Assad hours. How many Assad hours do you actually have?
I've probably spent 15 or 20 hours with him and another 20 or so with other Syrian officials.
So when you look at the events in Syria, how long does he have?
I think it's clear to us that, first of all, he needs to go because the use of violence against his own people completely compromises his legitimacy. And second of all, that regime's time is ticking. And we don't know exactly how long it will take, but there's going to be a transition in Syria. And we support the Syrian people's right to a peaceful transition that will bring about a government that's more responsive and more open and transparent and democratic. We don't know how long that will take. We're building all the pressures we can with the international community, with sanctions, with the Arab League now suspending Syria, working with Turkey as well. And I think it is going to shorten the time that he can remain there.
But I think there's been a shift in the role that the U.S. is playing under the Obama administration. It's not the sheriff of the world anymore. It's taking the backseat in Libya, in Syria. It's not leading the events, officially or openly or publicly.
I think the United States is always going to be the world's leader militarily, diplomatically, politically, economically, and we certainly embrace that role. In the case of these transitions that are taking place in the Arab world, I think we also recognize that what's happening in these countries is happening organically inside those countries. No outside actor, the United States or anybody else, is going to control what Egyptians or Syrians or Libyans choose about their future. And so we are realistic about our ability to affect those events. The circumstances are unique in each case, and we work with partners as we have in Egypt, in Libya, in Syria to try to make a difference where we can. At the same time, we have an understanding that what is happening are societies, the people in those societies are for the first time finding their voice and making themselves heard, and they will be the ones who will choose the directions their countries take.
You know, I think that diplomatic work is before WikiLeaks and after WikiLeaks. So I wonder what kind of cables you're sending these days when you see the hyperactive Knesset.
I've had actually some very good visits in the Knesset in the recent days, now that they're back in session.
You're such a diplomat.
Well, that's why they sent me here.
No, I'll tell you, because your colleague, the British ambassador, was very clear, and he expressed his thoughts about the massive right-wing legislation, and he said that it's coordinating Israel's image as a liberal democracy. Did you see it the same way? Is that what you're sending back to Washington?
What I see in the Knesset is a very vibrant democracy. I see a very open system where people can debate, people have the freedom to make their voices heard. Obviously, various proposals are put forward, and then that debate plays out both in the Knesset and in the broader society. We have a great respect for Israel's democracy, its institutions, and the Israeli people's ability to address concerns they have through those institutions.
I'm going to talk about the concerns in the round table, but you're not feeling that it's a different game, that things are changing. You're not concerned in a different way.
As I say, these are all matters that the Israeli people need to decide for themselves, and we're happy to allow them to do that. If and when we have any concerns about something, of course we have ways of discussing them, but we have a lot of confidence in Israeli democracy.
Mm-hmm. You're one of the most linked and hip ambassadors to the... Can we speak in Hebrew now? Is it okay because we're going to softer issues? Or, I mean, you speak Hebrew perfectly.
אני מדבר עברית, אבל אני עדיף ברעיון הזה...
לא, כי אתה מצייץ בטוויטר בעברית. נכון, אנחנו אספנו כל מיני ציוצים שלך, אני יודעת מה, אם זה נכון זה מעולה, וקבוצה של חיילים משוחררים פצועים בארצות הברית, ואתה היית באיזו הופעה וצייצת על זה. למה בעצם? מה...
אני חושב שלהשתמש בשפה העברית זאת דרך טובה לבנות קשר יותר חזק ביני ובין עם ישראל, אבל יותר חשוב ממני, בין שתי מדינותינו.
אתה יודע, אבל מה שמדהים זה שכשאתה מצייץ, נגיד על הופעה, עונים לך בעיקר על דבר אחד. כל הזמן רוצים לשמוע ממך תשובה בעניין פולארד. למה בעצם אי אפשר למצוא איזה דרך לשחרר את פולארד? אתה יכול לדבר באנגלית אם אתה רוצה.
And this I'll answer in English. You're right that this is an issue I've been asked about a lot, both on the Facebook and Twitter pages and also in public. There's not a great deal I can say about it. Mr. Pollard is serving the sentence he received for the very serious crime he committed. Beyond that, for me to speculate about his case really would not be, I think, a good idea, or I could really offer any speculation on it.
I'm going to ask you the last question in Hebrew. עמית שלי, יאיר לפיד, תמיד מסיים רעיונות בשאלה מה ישראלי בעיניך, אז תמיד עושים לך חידון עד כמה אתה בקיא, אתה מכיר את ישראל. מה בעיניך הכי ישראלי?
הכי ישראלי. אני נשאלתי איך אני מבלה בשבת בישראל, ואני אמרתי שמשפחה שלי אנחנו אוכלים ביחד ארוחת ערב וערב שבת, אנחנו הולכים לבית כנסת בשבת בבוקר, ואז מבקרים עם חברים, הולכים לחוף, מטיילים קצת, אז זה ממש ישראלי, לבלות ככה בשבת.
טוב, אז דן שפירו, ambassador to the US ambassador to Israel, thank you very much. תודה רבה שהיית איתנו, ואתה בעצם רק עוד 4 חודשים, אז יש לך לפחות עד נובמבר שנה הבאה, אבל נראה גם אחר כך. תודה רבה לך. אנחנו נעשה כאן הפסקה קצרה.